Hi everybody, Penny here. Welcome to my kitchen. So today we are going to do Barry's favorite cookie, which is a Newfoundland jam jam. Now, if you're in Newfoundland or you can have access to some Newfoundland products, specifically from the Purity company, they do jam jams. Now, essentially a jam jam is 2 molasses cookies put together with jam in the middle. And if you look up like copycat recipes for the Purity Jam Jam, those recipes will ask you to make your batter, put it in the fridge for half an hour, roll it out, get out your round cookie cutters. We're not going to bother with all that today. A molasses cookie is a molasses cookie in my opinion. So we're just going to make drop molasses cookies. We're going to let them cool, then we're going to put them together to make jam jams. So this is my version of the Newfoundland jam jam. And I am a Newfoundlander, so I guess that's okay. So first of all, we have 2 3/4 cups of flour. And then in this little bowl, we have, 2 teaspoons baking powder. We have a half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ginger, ground ginger, not fresh, and a half a teaspoon of salt. So all of that is going to go in with our flour. And then we're just going to give that a little mix around to make sure it all gets combined fairly evenly so that our cookies are evenly flavored. There we go. Yay. Okay, so we can set that aside for 1 minute. That's our dry ingredients. Now we're going to get to our wet ingredients. So in here I have a half a cup of butter. If you don't have any butter and you have shortening, you can certainly use that. Either or is fine, same amount, half a cup. This was in the fridge, so I put it in the microwave and melted it a little bit. To that, we're going to add a half a cup of sugar. So we're going to whisk that around. And these cookies are fine on their own. It's just a drop molasses cookie. So you don't necessarily want to make a jam jam, which actually is 2 cookies when you're eating them. You can easily do this just to have as a molasses cookie. So now we are going to add a half a cup of molasses. Now I've shown you this trick before. We're going to put a little drop of oil in the bottom of the measuring cup. It can be any oil. And then we're going to spread it up and around the measuring cup. And this is going to keep your molasses from sticking to the cup. Make it much, much easier to pour and much, much easier to clean. Okay, so now we're going to go for our half a cup of molasses. Now, if you like things really molassesy, you could put 3/4 of a cup. But we're going to do a half a cup today. There we go. And ta-da! Half a cup of molasses. And we're going to put that in here. And we're using fancy molasses today. If all you have is regular molasses, don't worry about it. It will do just fine. You will have a little bit of a stronger molasses flavor, but that's okay. They're molasses cookies. But fancy molasses is more meant for baking, or my mom used to pour it over her fish and brews, or even pancakes. That's what fancy molasses is for. So we're going to give this a mix in, and we're going to mix it really well until it kind of goes a lighter brown in color, and that just takes a minute. There we go. Make sure that's mixed really, really well. Take it around the edges. Make sure it all gets incorporated. There we are. Now we're going to add 1 egg. And we're going to whip that really, really well into our molasses, butter, and sugar. And if you have a stand mixer, you could easily do this in a stand mixer. Or if you have a handheld electric mixer, you could easily do it with that. But they're not all that hard to do by hand. There we go. And you see, the bowl is not near as dark as it was with the regular molasses. There we go. And now we're going to add just a little bit of milk. That's a half a cup. There we go. And just be careful when you add the milk at first, because if you start mixing really briskly, you're going to have milk going everywhere. So just hang on, get it incorporated, and then we'll start mixing a little harder. Alrighty. There we go. So now I'm going to put in about half of our dry ingredients with the whisk. And again, do it slowly at first or flour is going to go everywhere. There we go. Make sure you get around the edges to get it all incorporated in there. There we go. Yay! Now we're going to add the other half. And our oven is preheating to 350. And depending on how big you make your cookies, they'll be in there for about 15 minutes or so. Now this is getting, as you can see, very thick for the whisk. So now we're going to switch over to a wooden spoon or spatula or something, a scraper, I call it a spatula, something like that. Okie dokie. And leave that for Barry. All right, so let's make sure we get around the sides. There we go. And it comes together quite easily, quite quickly. Make sure you get it up from the bottom. Make sure you get all the flour. And there you are. It's a fairly thick batter, which is great. Now we are going to put it on our cookie sheet. And I have a 1 tablespoon, it's kind of like a mini ice cream scoop, but it's actually meant for cookies or watermelons or something like that. They actually don't recommend that you use this particular one for ice cream. So you can drop it with regular spoons, you can get yourself one of these, you could use an actual tablespoon and scoop it out that way, but I'm going to use 1 tablespoon, but you can use bigger or smaller, depending on how big you want your cookies to be. They won't completely flatten, but they will expand a little bit. So you want to make sure you give them a little bit of room to do that. Okay, so I'm going to finish doing this. The oven is coming up to temperature. I'm going to put them in the oven, and when they come out and they're cooled, I'll show you how to make them into jam jams. Hey everybody, back again. So our molasses cookies are ready. So these ones you can see are much darker from these ones. I guess you can see. Can you see that? These were in the oven for about 14-15 minutes. They're a little darker. These were in the oven for 10 minutes. Let's see, I don't know if you can see that very well, but they're a little lighter and a little softer. So when they come out of the oven and they cool, the molasses cookies are going to be a little hard and crunchy on the outside, but very soft on the inside. Once you put them in a container and leave, excuse me, leave them overnight, they get very, very soft. So don't worry about that, because jam jams are supposed to be very, very soft. So I've already done one for you. I don't know if you can see that. There's 2 cookies with jam in the middle. Jam jams. It's so cool. So, and you don't put very much jam in the middle because you don't want it to be squirting out the other side. So you just put on a little bit of jam. And ta-da! You have a jam jam. That's it. So we ended up with 22 cookies at 1 tablespoon each, which is going to give you 11 jam jams, but they're lovely cookies on their own. So if you make them like teaspoon size and flatten them a little bit, you'll get more. So I hope you give it a go. Enjoy. Bye.